All right, I'll begin again. Okay, today's 10-9. We're doing division of polynomials. So let's look at, the first type of problem you're going to see, 6x squared plus 3x minus 2. And it says, divide by 3. So an easy way to do this, if it's a monomial, you're dividing a polynomial by a monomial, what this really means is 6x squared plus 3x minus 2 all divided by 3, right? If it's all divided by that, that's the same thing as 6x squared over 3 plus 3x over 3 minus 2 over 3. And then just cross-cancel each term. I'm noticing I can cross-cancel a 3 and a 6, and I get a 2, so it's 2x squared. I'm cross-canceling a 3 and a 3, so that's a 1. I'm left with just x. And then I can't cross-cancel anything in the last one, so I'm left with negative 2/3. Okay, I'd like you to try x cubed plus 10 x squared plus 8x divided by 2x. Go. Pause the recording and do that problem. All right, so now check your work. We noticed that we could cross-cancel the x's, and you should have ended up with this. All right, so now let's get started on dividing polynomials. Okay? So I know there may be another way to do this, an easier way, and that is factoring, because you're pretty good at factoring now. But I don't want you factoring tonight when you have these polynomials. I want you to practice your long division. Just like we did when we do long division. 6 doesn't go into 1, so I move over a digit. 6 goes into 14 how many times? How many times? 2 times. So I multiply 6 times 2 and we get 12. And then we subtract the entire 12. I have a remainder of 2, and I bring down the 4. 6 goes into 24 how many times? We're doing the same thing. I subtract 24, and then okay, so everybody understands how to do long division? So we're going to do the same thing. Notice the x. X, we're looking at the first digit, and we're saying x. In fact, a better way to look at it is when I do my long division, let's say I had 63 goes into 4, 74. I do a little estimating, and I use my fingers, and I block out this digit and this digit. And I ask myself, how many times does 6 go into 47? Do you guys estimate like that? You don't? Where do you know to begin? What happens if they're big numbers? It's hard to figure out where to begin. So I do that, okay? I'm doing the same thing here. X times what equals x squared? Yes. X times x. Now, if you notice, I have x plus 5, 2 letters. So if I have to move over twice, because when I multiply x times x, I also have to multiply the 5. So I'm multiplying x times x is x squared, and I put it underneath the x squared. And I also multiply x times 5, and I put it under the x to the first power term. Now, we're here. We're here. What do I do? What do I do next? Andranik? Right. And since it's a binomial, I have to subtract the whole thing. That means I'm going to have to distribute that negative in. Negative, negative, right? Okay. So I know that right away, when I subtract it, positive x squared, negative x squared cancel out. Negative 4x and negative 5x make what? And then I'm left with 45. Now, again, I ask myself, x times what equals negative 9x? John? Negative 9. Good. I'm going to erase this and kind of make it neater, clean it up. X times negative 9 this time. And I put it right over the next term. So I get negative 9x. When I multiply negative 9 times x, we get negative 9x. Negative 9 times 5, we get what? Negative 45. And I'm subtracting the entire thing. Distribute in, and what do I get?
9x plus 1.
Right, and when we subtract, we end up with 0. Okay, I'm going to go back and we're going to repeat it and just explain it one more time, the same problem. Can I move on? I'm doing the exact same problem, Hike. Okay, I start out, the first thing I do is I ask myself, x times what equals x squared, Hike?
X.
Right. Because I have two terms and I'm going to multiply x by two terms, I've got to move it over. You understand that?
Yeah.
So I'm putting it right above the second term, and then I'm going to multiply that x times this and this. Here I'm going to get x squared and line it up here. Here I'm going to get plus 5x. But then remember, we have to subtract the whole thing. When I distribute it in, it makes x squared negative, and it makes 5x negative. So negative 4x, negative 5x make, Hike?
Oh, negative 9.
Yep. And then I bring the next term down. X times what equals negative 9? I'm sorry, negative 9x. Negative 9. So I write the negative 9 here, and then I multiply the entire binomial. Negative 9 times x is negative 9x. Negative 9 times 5 is negative 45. But then we subtract the whole thing, so we take the opposite sign of both,
9x plus 45.
and we end up with 0. Questions?
I was just wondering where the negative came from, but now I do.
Because it's here. It's here. The negative comes from the original division process. Yes.
That was my question.
Remember when we were subtracting? Instead of a monomial here, we've got a binomial. We have to subtract the whole thing, not part of it. Okay, so let's do one more. Which one goes into the box? Which goes into the box? Let's go with Andranik.
X cubed minus 6x squared.
That's right. Top dog goes in the doghouse. Top dog goes in the box. So now I'm going to say to myself, x times what equals what number? We want it to be. So what do I have to multiply x by? To x squared. I have two terms, so I have to move over. If I had three terms in the divisor, I'd move over 3 times. Okay, so I'm putting my x squared over here. X squared times x is x cubed. And x squared times negative 4 is?
Minus 4x squared.
Perfect. And now we're going to subtract the whole thing. I know that this is going to be a negative and this is going to be a positive. What will my remainder be?
Negative 2x.
Okay, negative, positive, so it's going to be negative 2x squared, and I'm bringing down my negative 7x. Now, one more time, what do I multiply x by to get negative 2x? Andranik?
Negative 2x squared.
I'm sorry, you're right, negative 2x squared. So what am I multiplying x by to get negative 2x squared? Negative 2x, and I get negative 2x squared, and then plus 8x. Okay, but we have to subtract the whole thing. So that makes a positive, and that's a negative. These two cancel out. And what's left is negative 15x. And I am bringing down now my plus 60. What number am I doing? Leora?
Negative 15.
Negative 15 times the x is negative 15x. Negative 15 times negative 4 is plus 60. Cross cancel. Oh, whoops, I can't do that. I have to, I'm subtracting the whole thing. It makes it positive and negative, and now I am zeroed out. Okay, questions? Okay, we're going to try the next one. You guys try doing on your own. Pause the recording. Okay, so now let's check our work. Julian, which one goes in the box?
2x cubed minus 17x squared.
Good.
Plus 45x.
So the first one, 2x, what am I multiplying it by to get 2x cubed?
X squared.
Yep. So x squared, and I'm moving over twice. And when I multiply x squared times this whole binomial, what do we get?
2x cubed minus 3x squared.
Minus 3x squared. And I'm going to subtract the whole thing. We end up with, now you'll notice my PowerPoint brings everything down. I usually just bring what I need one at a time. Just ignore this. Okay, the next one, what am I going to do? Gabby?
It's going to be negative 7x.
Negative 7x, and I get negative 14x squared and plus 21x. I subtract the whole thing, and I get positive and negative. So we are left with 24x minus 36. My final term is a plus 12 times 2x is plus 12x, 24x, sorry. 24x minus 36, but we subtract the whole thing, so it makes it negative and positive, and we end up with 0. Yes?
Sorry, how did you get 7x?
Because right here, when I was here, I said 2x times what equals negative 14x squared. Okay, any others? All right, so let's move on. Sometimes you might see this like this. One factor of blah, 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 blah is blah, 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 blah. Which one is going into the doghouse? Jack? Right. Okay, so I just wanted you to get used to seeing that. Find another factor. So we call this the divisor, the x plus 5. The 3x squared under the box is the dividend, and the quotient is what goes on top. So really your two factors are the quotient and the divisor. Yeah.
Could it ever be on this problem, 6x third is out of the box and 2x plus 1 is in the box? He's saying switch the two, like, you know.
So the bigger one is outside? Yeah, the trinomials, absolutely. It's going to be, probably won't give it to you at the Algebra 1 level. Okay, now, remainders. I'm doing the same thing. Here we go. 5x times what equals 5x to the third? Kate?
X squared.
X squared, put it over the second term. X squared, I get 5x squared minus x squared. But we're subtracting the whole thing. We distribute, and I have this remaining, and I bring this one down. Remember, ignore the negative one. Now, 5x times what equals negative 15x squared? 5x times what equals negative 15x squared? Zach?
Negative 3x.
Negative 3x. Multiply the whole thing, and we'll get negative 15x squared plus 3x. But we subtract the whole thing, and it makes everything the opposite sign. I bring down the 20, because that's a negative, right? Are you guys with me? Remember when I distribute, it makes this negative. So here I'm left with 20. I bring down the 1. Now what, guys? And Ronique?
Multiply it by plus 4.
Good. And I get 20x minus 4. Subtract the whole thing. That goes negative. That gets positive. And we are left with 3. What did you do when you were younger and you were left with a remainder? Yes.
You put it over the one that
We put it over the divisor. Yes. That's it. It's positive. So I write plus. Wait, let me just come back here. I've got that 3. It's positive, so I just write plus, and I put 3 over the divisor. That's it. Nothing difficult. Are we clear on remainders? Okay. And there's your answer. Everything up there. Questions? Okay, let's look at the next one. When 2x times what equals this? Yes.
X squared.
X squared. So I put it over here. X squared times 2x is 2x squared. 2x cubed. 2x times, x squared times 6 is plus 6x squared. So now, when I subtract everything, what happens? And that's okay. So we bring the next one down, and the next one. And 2x goes into negative 10x how many times?
5 times.
Okay, plus or negative? Negative 5. And I'm doing negative 5 times this is negative 10x, negative 30. Subtract the whole thing. Take the remainder, and where does it go? Over the divisor, yes. So it's x squared minus 5 plus 7 over 2x plus 6. Yes, I understand. No, I don't. Okay. Next. One problem that I can probably rest assured that we will put on your test is this one right here. X plus 1 divides into x to the 5th plus 1. Now, yes. Okay, so when I'm done, you're saying, here's where I can't read my own writing. Okay, x squared, and I bring down the x to the first power. Negative. It looks like I'm getting 0. Oh, yeah. No. Looks like I get 0. I'll finish it. Yeah.
How come you put 0x to the 4? Isn't there 1x?
No. There's no x to the 4th in there. There's no x to the 3rds in there. There's no x to the 2nds in there. 0. Let me finish this because I'm what's up?
How did you get the 1 also?
Okay, let me just finish it and then we'll. I'll go over it at home. Okay.
Why can't we do it like
Okay, let me try that again. I don't know. I got so small I couldn't read my writing. So let's go back. X times, I would say x to the fourth. So we're going to start with x to the fourth. I end up with x to the fifth minus x to the fourth. Okay, I'm subtracting. The whole thing just becomes negative. That becomes positive. I am going to cross cancel that, and I am left with x to the fourth, and I bring this down, plus 0x to the third. Now I'm going to do plus, I need x to the third. Oops, that should be a negative, right? And so now I'm going to do minus x to the third. And we end up with negative x to the fourth minus x to the third. When I subtract it, it makes this positive and this positive. And so I am left with an x to the third. And I'm going to bring down my plus 0x sec to the second. So now I'm going to multiply everything by plus x squared. We end up with x cubed plus x squared, but I have to subtract everything, so this will be negative, they'll cancel out, and this will be negative x squared, and then I'm going to bring down my plus 0x. Now, I'm going to multiply x times 0x. I mean, x times what to get negative x squared? So I'm multiplying by negative x, and we end up with negative x squared and minus x. Okay, so I have to subtract everything. That becomes positive. I did have it. I see what I made a mistake, and I was so small. So these are going to cancel out, and I'm left with an x, and then I bring my 1 down, plus 1. And so now I'm multiplying everything by plus 1, and we get x plus 1, and then we have to subtract the whole thing. It makes that negative, we end up with 0. So my answer to this is x to the fourth minus x to the third plus x squared minus x plus 1. Now if I go back to my last one, I will notice I forgot to write down the 0 right here. That's what my mistake was. I had 0 x to the 1, and so I was left with an x, and then I bring down that other 1 plus 1, and so there it was. I thought my x's were canceling out. All right, so that's dividing polynomials. One more time. Take a look, write your notes if you want to take a look at it.